Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 442 days less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. UK Defense Secretary Ben Wallace confirmed information about the transfer of long-range Storm Shadow missiles to Ukraine, reports Militarny. He stressed that the donation of these weapon systems gives Ukrainians the best chance to defend themselves against Russia's continued brutality, especially the deliberate targeting of Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, which is against international law. Wallace stressed that the UK will not simply stand by as Russia kills civilians. The Franco-British Storm Shadow air-based missile has a warhead mass of 450 kilograms. The declared launch range of this cruise missile is more than 250 kilometers in the export version and up to 560 kilometers for the French and British armies. Experts assume that these missiles will be launched from Soviet-made jets. Minister of Defense of Ukraine Oleksiy Reznikov reacted by saying that it is through the shadow of the storm that the sunshine of our liberty will break through and shed light on our victory, reports Interfax Ukraine. The press secretary of the Russian President Dmitry Peskov said that Moscow feels extremely negative towards this decision of London and they will prepare an adequate response, reports NVUA. Ben Wallace also informed that the UK delivered all Challenger 2 tanks promised to Kyiv, reports Interfax Ukraine. He said that all these tanks have arrived in Ukraine, as well as a lot of spare parts and armored vehicles. Earlier, British media reported that the UK would send Ukraine 14 Challenger 2 tanks, 20 Bulldog armored personnel carriers, and 30 AS-90 self-propelled artillery units. In total, the British industry has produced more than 400 tanks of this model. Poland informed that overall it delivered 14 MiG-29 fighters and 325 tanks to Ukraine, reports Censor. According to the Polish mission to the EU, out of the 575 tanks delivered to Ukraine so far, as many as 325 have been given by Poland. The Netherlands is second with 85 tanks, Germany third, 80 tanks, and the United States fourth, 76 tanks. In addition, of the 28 planes transferred to Kyiv so far, Poland has sent as many as 14 MiG-29 fighters. The MiG-29 is the fourth-generation Soviet and Russian fighter aircraft developed in the 70s, designed to destroy air targets with guided missiles and airborne guns and to destroy ground targets using unguided weapons. The aircraft is operated by more than 20 countries of the world. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that Ukraine will receive Abrams tanks at the beginning of autumn, and at the same time, training programs for the Ukrainian military to work on them should be completed, reports Voice of America. He added that the deadlines are explained by the fact that the American military not only sent these tanks to Ukraine and prepare the Ukrainian crews to work on them, but also create the infrastructure that will support the operation of these tanks, which are new for Ukrainians. We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This will help more people to find the Highlights from Ukraine podcast and learn the truth about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Ukraine needs more time to launch a counteroffensive against Russia, as the military are still waiting for some of the Western aid, reports Ukrainska Pravda. In an interview with the BBC for the Eurovision News Network, the president stressed that Ukrainian forces can already go forward and they will be successful, but will lose a lot of people. Thus, it is better to wait. He said that combat brigades, which have been trained in particular by NATO countries, are ready but still wait for some equipment, including armored vehicles, which are arriving in batches. Zelensky denied Russian accusations that Ukraine was behind the drone attack on the Kremlin. The Ukrainian president said that the attack could have been a false flag operation by Russia. He also dismissed concerns about losing US support if President Joe Biden is not re-elected in 2024. Zelensky believes that Ukraine enjoys bipartisan support in the US Congress and voiced confidence that the country will gain victory before the US elections next year. The president of Ukraine said that even among the countries that are very friendly towards Ukraine, there are those that help Russia to circumvent sanctions. Zelensky also urged partners not to put pressure on Ukraine with calls for negotiations with Russia. Thank you for listening to the highlights from Ukraine. There is an easy way to support us. Rate us in the apps where you are listening to this podcast: Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. This really helps our podcast to stand out. Thank you. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.